to record it, and feel free to stop me. And
May I make
yes,
a point? I'd just like to tell the students that I appreciate their presence, but more so I appreciate that Miss Bradford has taken this time and made this effort to do this. She is to be commended for it. I endorse her initiative, and I'd like all of you who are present to invite your peers in general management to come on and join, because I can assure you it will make a difference, not just for UTech, but beyond. This is one of those what they call life skills. So please encourage your peers to join in. And again, thank you, Miss Bradford.
you're welcome, my dear. All right, so we're going to start off now, and we're going to start with common writing issues that we face when we're marking papers. No introduction. Look here, I'm just jump in at the something so, and I'm not say X, Y, or Z. My phone on silent. You don't say X, Y, or Z, nothing, no introduction, no little, this is the essay that I'm writing, no little definition up at the front, nothing at all. You just jump into the content, just so. You don't have no little thesis statement. And a lot of the things that I'm going to discuss here, they are both for when you're writing an exam question and when you're writing a long form essay. Because when you're writing an exam question, you can do the same things. It's not going to be as detailed and you know, coherent and everything as if you were writing as essay for an assignment, but the same principles apply. So I'm not write no introduction, I'm not write no little thesis statement, nothing. Then you don't write no conclusion either. You have to conclude, you have to wrap up what you say. And then, but we'll go into that. You do not effectively define certain concepts. You might say, you might say that the pants is red, but you don't describe what kind of red it is. It's a dark red, a light red. Does it have any, you know, little shade, any little thing? You don't define things properly. So sometimes I have to wonder, do you really understand what you're saying? Because you don't define, even when you're defining things, you don't define it properly. You make points, but you don't expand on them. So you touch on something, but you don't go in depth with it and flesh out your overall point to let us as the lecturers or markers know that yes, I understand exactly what I'm saying. You do not use examples to back up your points. It is important that you use examples. I always tell students in my classes that I teach, use some example, because when I'm teaching, I use examples as well to explain to you or make it simpler to you so that you understand. So even all of that, the textbooks and that kind of thing have concepts internationally or examples are international. I always try my best to have local examples as well. Use examples as much as possible. But you have to make sure your example makes sense, you know. You can't just write no like a full example just so. Paragraphs. Paragraphs are disjointed, they do not flow. You have to say 1 million things in a one little paragraph. Look here. A paragraph there's a section I have at the end when I finish discussing how to write the essay where we just talk about paragraph alone. Because we are so bad at writing a proper paragraph, you see. Poor honor. Poor sentence structure, poor grammar and mechanics. What to no full stop? What to your comma? No just a run along, and go so and now stop. Even simply just capitalizing certain words. I have to pay attention to those things. Sometimes, if I decide that I'm going to deduct marks for some of these things, Lord God, I wouldn't get no marks at all, because spelling, grammar, mechanics, sentence structure, these are things that you have to work on. And these are things that I cannot teach you in a little 1 hour, 1.5 hour session. These are things that you have to work on in your own time. Have a good book that you can reference. I can't even think of which book would be a good book now, but because the APA don't give you this kind of thing really, it just stick to mostly formatting. But talking about APA, when you do your assignments in particular, students are still having citation issues. reference list issues. You just copy the link that you get the thing from and put it in the reference list, and you don't put the author and the date and the year and none of that. So these are some of the common issues I find when you're writing essays, both when you're writing a paper to submit for assignment and also for most of them during an exam. Because in an exam situation, you are required to still write a proper essay. I've had students, especially in an exam situation, that they list out things. They just write lists. They're just listing out things. And I'm saying, that is not an essay. You're not going to get a good grade for giving me a list of things. So you have to practice essay writing. And there's a document that I put together that I'm going to give you. I'm going to drop it in the chat later on, that can give you some guidance, and you just keep it. And just try your best to practice and just write better essays. And even your other writing, as Mrs. Angus was saying, outside of UTech, you can use some of these principles, even if you're writing a letter, to just write proper paragraphs and that kind of thing. All right. So you get a question now, and you're supposed to answer it. How are you going to determine how you answer this question? The first thing you have to do is to read the question and see what is it asking you to do, and do that. Sometimes you give students question and a test or that kind of thing, and look here, then write what they want to write. Uno write what uno want to write. So you're really supposed to look at the question, what is it asking you to do, and do exactly that. And of course, it means that you would have had to do your studying. You would have had to do your reading before you come into the test, or even before you put together a paper, and do exactly what it asks you to do. Oh, before I started, I was saying that if you need to ask me a question, you can stop and ask me. You can raise your hand, you can stop, and I will stop and answer your question. If I'm going, while I'm going along, you need to ask a question, you can go ahead and do so. Look for the keywords in the question. So the keywords include the instructions, which we're going to go through some of them, and the keywords also include certain concepts. If it is asking you about a management theory, which particular theory, and that kind of thing, those are keywords as well. Keywords are things like discuss and explain. Those are keywords, and I'm going to go through those shortly. What are the keywords in the essay? Underline them. These are the things that I need to focus on. And what the keywords really are, they are your directions, what exactly you're supposed to do, and you follow them. And you note how much marks are assigned to the question. You cannot say an essay worth 20 marks and write 1 or 2 paragraphs. 2 short paragraphs at that. You have to be mindful. When I'm going to have a different session for case study, because I think case studies are more nuanced. So I set up in week 9, I set up a different set of session for case study. But look at the marks that are assigned to the question. Even if it's a short answer question, you must be able to write enough, adequate enough. If it's worth 10 marks or 20 marks, you need to definitely flesh out your ideas, answer the questions properly to get the full marks. Because I remember some time ago, a student she didn't get the grade that she wanted. So she came to me, she know the content, you know. She knows that she know the content, and she did, but she did not answer the question properly. And I had to get her paper and show her that she made certain points, but she never write enough for me to give her 18 out of 20. What she write did just worth like 10. Even though she did in fact know the content, she just never flesh it out and make it sound sensible and make it sound like she understand and use her examples and all of that, even though it would appear as if she really was aware of the content that the question was asking for. But based on the marks, again, you need to answer your questions based on the marks assigned to the essay, even if it's a short answer question. So yes, so these are some of the things that you pay attention to when you are answering your essay questions. So now we're going to look at some keywords, instructions. What do they mean when they ask you to do this particular thing, that particular thing? First is to analyze. I want you to tell me, what would you do if you get a question and it asks you to analyze? So I just want anybody in the class to tell me, even though you're seeing the definition, tell me when you get a test question that says analyze, what do you do? Anybody want to volunteer? I know the definition up, but I still want to hear from you. Anybody? Princess? Hi, Princess. Long time. Go ahead, Rolana. I see that your mic is open, but I'm not hearing anything. Anybody else? Melanie? Rolana, I see that your mic is open, but I'm not hearing you. Somebody else volunteer. Mark? Break up things into smaller parts. Yeah, that can work too. Yeah. Get finer details. Yes, Melanie. That's kind of what you do when you're analyzing something. You're just looking very, very deep into it. The explanation here is saying that you want to go step by step, point by point. Pay attention to who, what, where, how, why in the answer, including strengths and weaknesses, pros and cons. You're looking at for and against. When you're analyzing something, you go deep into it. We tend not to necessarily instruct students to analyze when we are doing exam type questions. It can work in a case study thing because we give you a case study. So for you to analyze something, we could ask you to do that in an exam setting. But more than likely, it will be more that like when you're writing more of a long form paper, you really need to analyze something. But I personally, I try to stay away from it in an exam setting because to analyze is a lot more work than to, for instance, compare and contrast. So compare and contrast is asking you to stress similarities and differences between objects, concepts, ideas, theories. And then contrast now is to look at the dissimilarities, the differences, or unique and distinguishing characteristics in the response. So say you're comparing two theories. How are they similar? How are they different? That is what the compare and contrast is. So if you're writing an essay where you're comparing and you're contrasting, you can do the compare section first, then you do the contrast section after. I feel like that would flow better than rather to do both of them for each theory. So say theory 1, you compare and contrast with theory 2 and you do it all in one and jumble it. I don't like that. It can get a little confusing. It can work, but it can get a little confusing. I'd prefer if you compare the two theories first, then you contrast the two theories after. And that can be done in like 2 to 3 paragraphs. And of course, you will have your introduction and your conclusion afterwards. But the body of your paper is about comparing these two theories and then contrasting them. And in your conclusion, you can come to some kind of, you can add your personal touch to it about what you think. So comparing and contrasting essays are good. Define and describe. Describe, you want to clearly state the meaning, list any qualities, any traits, any characteristics. Describe is similar. Define should have been what should have been at the top here is define. You clearly state the meaning, list qualities, traits, and characteristics. Describe can be similar to define in that it includes traits, characteristics. It's like you're telling a story though. You're using a little bit more detail than if you were defining. And then you want to summarize it in a way. So the define and describe kind of similar. It's just that the describe you're going to a little bit more detail than if you were just defining the concept or the theory or the topic. Discuss again. Discuss can be similar to compare and contrast. You want to present significant characteristics, pros and cons, any pertinent research you find, and the significance of each. You want to develop the arguments for and against, or analyze the advantages and disadvantages of problems. So it's kind of similar to the compare and contrast, but maybe it wouldn't be that you are looking at similarities and differences by themselves. The discuss is more like you're fleshing it out. It is not as detailed as if you're going to analyze. But to discuss something is to flesh it out and look at it from different angles, and then you can draw a conclusion. And as I say, not as detailed as if you were going to analyze. Because sometimes you're analyzing, you want to draw some serious conclusions when you analyze something. But when you discuss it, it can be more of a, say for instance, in your conclusion, you may not even come to a proper conclusion. You can discuss it and say that, you know, theory A is a good theory to use in organizations, but theory B works as well. So it's just a matter of the manager's style or leadership style and which one they want to use. And you may not come to a full final conclusion decision, you're just fleshing out the topic. So that is what the concept, so that is what we mean by discuss. And oftentimes, I love to use discuss. Discuss is my favorite action word, keyword, instruction word. I love discuss because I'm saying to you, look at this particular concept and flesh it out and tell me what it means. What is it saying about, you know, we do general management, so it's mostly about organizations and that kind of thing. So I love discuss. I use describe quite a bit as well. I use describe and discuss quite a bit when I'm setting essay questions. We use evaluate. I will use evaluate in case studies. Evaluate means that you emphasize positive and negative aspects, include opinions, and support these with some kind of proof, information, or examples. So you can see why I would use it in a case study, because I give you a whole page and a half or so of a case study. So if I ask you to evaluate something, you have the proof to back it up. So that is why I use the word evaluate in case studies. So normally instructions don't like unsupported opinions from college students. So especially if you're writing a long form essay, you need to back up. Whatever you evaluate and you find, you need to back it up. But I use it in the case study because information is going to be in the case study for you to evaluate a particular scenario, and then you have information to back it up. So like a case study, I'll definitely use the word evaluate. Examples, pretty straightforward. You use brief stories, analogies, relevant events, or similar instances to support general statements and main ideas. Sometimes when you get away with the examples, them too. I had a student the other day telling me about, so miss, if you're frying a fish and the fish, was it the fish? Anyway, baking a cake, yes. So baking a cake. And she used the example, if you're baking a cake and you have the ingredients and this and that, look here, don't go write nothing about no cake and no fish and a dumpling in my essay. Okay? I want sensible examples. I don't hear about no cake and no fish and no dumpling. You have to use sensible examples about organizations that maybe you worked in, something that may have, so we're talking about team group work, that kind of thing. You can use an example of something that happened in your organization, even though I don't know if it is true, but as long as it's not highfalutin and weird and strange, and as long as it really relates to the topic that you are discussing. So you want to support general statements and main ideas and by using examples. Explain. I don't necessarily use interpret a lot, but I use explain sometimes. So explain means that you're going to give reasons or justifications for something, or present causes, rationalizations, and how or why something occurred. Yes, so explain is really just you giving me back some facts, basically. Interpret means you cover existing understandings of a topic. Paraphrase, you can translate, you can condense, simplify, or you can diagnose as you write. I don't think I've ever set an assessment question and used interpret. I personally, I don't think so. I just feel like it wouldn't be appropriate, especially in an exam setting. So I personally don't use it. Justify. I use this a lot in case studies especially. Justify why you think that this business level strategy is differentiation. Why, what in the case study you see that you made this decision that this is the business level strategy that the company is using. Justify it. It means that you're going to present rationale, reasons for conclusions, recommendations, or results. You want to use proof, research, examples, or quotes to support your justifications. So sometimes I may ask you a yes or no question, The answer is no. Why is it no? You have to justify why it is no. And that is where the marks are. The marks is in the justification, because I could have never go give you 5 marks to tell me yes or no. So prove now is similar. You want to include factual evidence, research logic, and/or scientific proof that substantiates a case, present a position, a specific position, or a set of hypotheses. I don't use proof. I think proof is very scientific. So, I mean, I don't use proof at all. List and traced. Trace. Yeah, I've used list. Yes, I've used list. You want to list now, you want to record topics in numerical, developmental, or chronological order. Many times a brief description or explanation is expected, but the questions will usually request if it is desired. Trace, you want to discuss according to a pattern, such as chronological order, something that happened over the years. So that would be more like of a history thing. Trace would work according to a definite sequence or by presenting phases or stages in a certain order. So I'll definitely use list sometimes, but I feel like list is just pretty simple. It's just easy marks. I kind of stay away from list, but I've used it. Outline. Present your answer in terms of major points, followed by clarifying details or facts. No elaboration is usually necessary. It is wise to find out if your instructors wish for you to outline by listing only main and subordinate points in short numbered phrases, or if they want you to use the narrative format with complete sentences and paragraphs. So if I use outline as an instruction, I'd probably say outline and discuss. I never use outline and just leave it like that, because outline just means that you're giving me just a little frame. It's like you're giving me the picture frame if you outline something. So even if I use the word outline, I usually use it with another instruction, action word. Relate and review. Relate means you clearly point out connections or relationships between 2 or more ideas. And to review, you want to mention important ideas, major points, and/or list topics from lecture or the textbook. Sometimes review means critically evaluate and/or give your opinion. I tend not to use those either. Summarize. Guys, we need to learn how to summarize well. Because sometimes when you're writing things, especially since we're in online learning and students just picking up things from the textbook and picking up things online and putting it in their essays, if you learn to summarize well, you don't need to do that, You don't need to do that. You can take 1 page and turn it into 1/3 of a page, and you don't plagiarize because you summarize what is there in your own words. So you list major ideas, concepts, and consequences in a short paragraph or a sentence. Could also mean you present a brief abstract of the main ideas, compose a concise resume covering only the highlights and relevant details, and little elaboration is necessary. So if you are able to summarize and paraphrase, you can definitely write better essays and that kind of thing, especially when you're doing assignments. So, but in test questions, summarize is not a good action word for me to ask you in an exam or a test situation, but I still put it here because learning to summarize and paraphrase are 2 key skills you need to learn. So those are the major instructions that I discussed. I'll go back and I tell you that I don't really use analyze. I use compare and contrast, define and describe. I love discuss. I love using discuss. Using examples, and I love for you to justify whatever you say. So those are the ones that I tend to use the most. So you need to understand what they mean. When you see it in the question, what am I supposed to do when it's a discuss? It means that you need to flesh it out. Look at it at different angles. You don't have to necessarily come up with a final conclusion, but you need to say something in your conclusion. All right, so before I move on, questions, comments, please to say something. Come participate, guys. It's not just a lecture, and I want to hear what I have to say. I'm waiting. Repeat what? What do you want me to repeat? I'm asking you for your any opinions, or you don't have any questions, anything that you have to say, anything or anything. No? I'm not just dead, so. Sure. All right. Let us go to the introduction of the essay. How are you going to introduce the essay now? State what the question is about. You don't have to repeat exactly what the question say, no. You just want to state what it is about. You want to give a brief overview. You want to give definitions where necessary. Okay, you're at work. All right. You want to state how you are going to address the topic by using a thesis statement. And really, this is your opening statement, and you have not started to answer the question as yet. It's just your introduction. So I have a question somewhere in here. Let me go back to share files. Let me see the listing. No, sorry, not you. All right, I want to jump to another slide where I have a question. You're welcome, Princess, and thank you too. All right, I'm jumping way down the bottom and I soon go back up. So this is a question from Introduction to Management. Describe the three main organizational structures and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each. And this is worth 20 marks. So asking you to describe, which means that I want you to set out the main aspects of the topic or sequence of things. And to discuss, I want you to develop the arguments for and against, or analyze the advantages, disadvantages, just flesh out the topic if you have any problems. But I'm talking about the introduction now. So in an introduction to this question, the first thing you are going to do is what? Somebody type in the chat or tell me verbally, what is the first thing you're going to do? I have it on another slide.
Define organizational structure.
Define organizational structure. That is the first thing you're going to do, and a lot of students don't do that. They just jump into talking about the three structures. They don't define organizational structure or anything. Them not put what them all say. Nothing. The first thing you do is to define organizational structure, what it is, what makes up an organizational structure, the working relationships, the hierarchy, the this, the that, all of those things. Start out by talking about that. That is what you're supposed to do first. And then afterwards, let me find back my slide that I was at. Afterwards, then you can go back, you can go to, I tell you something, I like Blackboard. That may try to go back to my slides. So if I go back one, it just was not showing me the slides. Then you give, like, when I say a brief overview, you're going to talk about the three organizational structures, but you're not define them. You're just going to say these three organizational structures are common in organizations, and they have different benefits and maybe, you know, drawbacks. Don't use the word drawbacks, use disadvantages and that kind of thing. But you're not going to define anything. Don't define them yet. Then you have a little thesis statement where you say that in this essay, and you can write it very simply now, because if you say in this essay, I don't want you to use I don't talk about yourself. I want you to use more passive language where you say these three organizational structures will be discussed and the advantages and disadvantages will be presented. That is a thesis statement, you know, guys. It's simple, you know. I've had students ask me that, Miss, help me write one thesis statement, not like it hard. It's not hard. You just say what you're going to do. Just say what you're going to do. What I just said, you can say this essay will discuss these three organizational structures, and the advantage and disadvantages of each will also be examined. That is a thesis statement. It don't mess up. I hit that. And that is your introduction, you know, guys. It's not awfully long. A paragraph must not be less than 3 sentences. You didn't know that? Tell the truth. You didn't know say a paragraph cannot be less than 3 sentences? Okay, Melanie did know. Yes, a paragraph must not be less than 3 sentences, But for your opening introduction, you write a 5-sentence. You can write 5 nice sentences. Because by the time you do the introduction, you do the definition of organizational structures, you introduce the 3 of them, and then you say, you know, some organizations, I recommend 5. Yes. Do 5 sentences for your introduction. And even if you're in the exam, you can do that too, you know. You can do that in your exam. Write the 5 sentences. If you're writing a long form essay, it's going to have to be a lot more. It can be a half a page, maybe 1 page, because you will be discussing a lot more things in, because you wouldn't get a term paper with such a simple question that I just looked at. That is definitely an exam question. So write a little introduction. And when you write your introduction, you say write one good introduction, you feel nice, you know, and you're confident now for going at the people must not write essay under exam condition. I don't understand what you mean by pressure. That is no pressure. It can be done and you get enough time. I'd rather give you more time to do your exam. So if I feel like you need more time to do your exam, I prefer to give you more time than not to give you an essay. You have to write essay in an exam, miss. Yeah, the main body now. This is where the whole of the marks there. In the main body, and I have a slide later down where I show you how I will break down a rubric and mark an essay. So when other things are difficult, you know, me just methodological. So this is where you utilize the key instructions in your essay question. So you want to analyze or compare and contrast, list and explain. Sometimes you're doing all of that, especially when it's a discuss, you're doing all of that, even though, you know, the analyze is kind of strong. So the main body will be a number of paragraphs where you build your essay by fleshing out the question and to arrive at a conclusion. The main body of your essay, even in an exam situation, need to be 2 to 3 paragraphs. You don't need to write something, but then it requires that you study, and if I don't like studying either, that's half a problem, you know. I don't like studying either. So that is the main body. Of course, I'm going to go down in it some more. The conclusion, again, not for long. It can be the same 5 sentences as the introduction. Summarize the main and most important points in the essay. This easier stuff now. I'm going to turn it off. Summarize the main and most important points in the essay. Do not introduce any new information. Is the conclusion. You can't say nothing new. Anything where you never say in a body or essay, you cannot say again. You're winding down to a close. You're outlining your judgment or your opinion. In academia, we do not necessarily want you to have an opinion, which is unfortunate. But I am not opposed to my students giving me an opinion in an essay. I'm not opposed to it. You should make more of a judgment than an opinion. But as I say, I am not opposed to the opinion, but in academia, nobody knows what you have to say. Just make a judgment. You want to tie up some loose ends, have an affirmative clause, and you do not leave the examiner wondering what your stance is. Make a judgment. Which one of these organizational structures do you think will work best in a particular organization? Just say something. So you want to make sure that you have your introduction, you flesh out the concept in the body, then you have your little conclusion. All right. Even in an exam situation, you have to plan out things a little bit. So you read the question, you think about what it asks you to do, you make your little jottings by your exam paper, and in a sense, you have the little jottings, you plan it out. Because I've done that in the past when I was doing, you know, studying at the lower level. I would just first thing I do, I have pencil, I have everything. I'm going to exam, I have my pencil and the C question on the start, right? Because now, from a C question, it triggers certain things in my memory that if I did study. I'm going to exam and study too, you know. But that is semi-perfect. We go exam and study nothing. Never study nothing and go on an exam, go right. But I just jot down little things. So that's my little planning. I jot down little main points. So that when I write, I know so I follow this plan. It is better when you are doing an assignment because you have enough time. So you can plan and think, and then you go research, then you write, then you edit. This is not linear, however. You don't have to do all of them in each step consistently. Sometimes you plan and you think, and when you do your research, you have to go back and think again. Sometimes you're right and you realize, say, you know, something wrong. You go back and think again and plan again and research again. So it's not necessarily linear, it's not a complete cycle. Especially when you have an assignment to do and you know, say, it's due 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, you have the time to go back and do different iterations of your essay. Our writing is really iterative. I would advise you, any essay any assignment you have, do not submit your first draft. The first, Ernest Hemingway, I saw him the name, right, To Kill a Mockingbird. He said that the first draft of anything is crap. Anything you write the first time is foolishness. Always do a second draft. Go through and correct and add something and take out something and that kind of thing. Even if it's group work, do the same thing. So there's a little process that you can employ when you are writing your essay, and you can do a short version of it in the exam setting. So you want to write down in your own words what you think the assignment is asking you to do. You want to, what do you already know about the subject matter? What background information do you need to help you complete the assignment? And how are you going to choose your reading material? Sorry, that is if you're doing the assignment. In the exam, you want to jot down your main points you want to discuss. Any supporting points, you jot them down in short form. Think of some example and you just start right same time. Remember, see, you're in an exam now, and you have time to go think about nothing too deeply. You just make your jottings and you start right. So anywhere you take it, you have to analyze the essay, analyze what the question is asking. In terms of thinking, this is more about when you are doing an assignment, you want to have your initial ideas, but you want to brainstorm. I tend to use lists. I'm more of a list person. The mind map and the concept map and the arrow to here and there, I find it confusing. I mostly do lists. Can use your post-it notes and write ideas on different things, or if you have your whiteboard, like I have my whiteboard over there, you can post your little post-it. But sometimes I just find it so cumbersome. I just write lists. I prefer to write lists. And then you do an initial plan, then you do your preliminary reading. I must say though, that I was discussing this with a colleague the other day, that I don't expect you as undergrad students to write at the level that I write as a doctoral student, soon to complete my doctorate. But I still expect you to write decent. You understand? I don't expect you to write in the manner that I would write, but I still expect you to write decent. So you have to do some research and read something and think about it and that kind of thing. Because I'm going to mark an assignment. I don't want to use the word harder, but I'm going to use the word harder. I'm going to mark it harder than I would an exam question, because in an exam question, you're kind of under pressure and that kind of thing, as Melanie did say, a pressure that. But when you have time to do your assignment, you can write foolishness and give me, miss and sir. All right, so, you do your outline and you have your, just say what you're going to discuss in the introduction. Jot down what you're going to introduce what you're going to discuss in the main body. You have your main point A, main point B, then what you're going to say in your conclusion. Always do an outline. I always do an outline for whatever I'm writing, because I have something to follow. So when you just start write anything. Remember I was just telling you about the paragraphs? Or some students just write everything in that one paragraph because you never do a little outline, you never do a little jotting. In terms of your assignments, you want to do your reading and your research. I should have included something about doing an annotated bibliography, but I can just explain it. If you read a couple journal articles and then you're writing your little essay, you don't need more than maybe 110 source. And you just take the abstract, take out the main information from the abstract, and you have all of them. And you use that as a guide to back up anything that you're going to say in your research. So I just want to mention that a little bit. So you use rough outline as a guide, you gather information relative to each topic, do your little annotated bibliography, which is just where you have the author, the year, all of that, and what this journal article is about. Or even if it's something you find online, what is it about? What were they saying as it relates to the essay that you're writing? So keep good notes. You want to organize content according to the outline, and you want to choose what to include. So types of evidence to support your points. You want to use quotes, you can use tables, and you can paraphrase and summarize. You have to take time with the quotes though. Just take time with the quotes. If you're writing a 10-page paper, I don't want to see a whole heap of quotes in it. Maybe two the most. I don't like quotes. Summarize and paraphrase. Don't use the quotes. Yes, let me turn on this one. So you want to do your reading and your research to back up your assignments. And then when you start right now, you just start right early. Do not wait until the day before your assignment due. Not killing yourself or try writing anything. You know, stop it. So, and I've procrastinated and did last minute work. But when you procrastinate and do the last minute work, it's just not good work, you know. No matter how you tell yourself it's foolishness. Oh, I work well under pressure. I know people who say them work well under pressure, and I disagree. I'm sitting here watching you. You know, work no well under pressure. It's just this foolishness that people love to tell themselves. When you give yourself time to get your assignments done, and look, guys, I understand that some of you doing all 7 courses, you know, I know say it rough. I know say it rough. Yes, I like to have time in between. Yes. Which background you're talking about? Yes, I love to change. And look here, writing is an iterative process. So you see, if you give yourself the time to really correct, you will put out a good essay. But at the same time, I must caution you. After a while, you need to stop. You don't need to have revised your essay 10 times. But I always say a second draft, maybe a third draft is good enough. People that write books, I write long books, novels and that kind of thing, they edit their books 10 times because they must sell the book, they want the book for really good. But in terms of the essay, I'd say 2, 3 the most. What are you talking about? Explain the background, Giselle. So in terms of writing now, you want to extend your outline. That is where you're building upon the things that you said. One idea or section at a time, and then get something down. Write first your rough draft, then you revise and improve the draft. How many drafts? Up to you. As I was just saying, for an assignment, I think two to 3 is good enough for an assignment. At my level and writing my dissertation, I'll go through it 1 million times because I have to, because I'm going to be examined. I'm going to have to do a defense. So I have to go through my stuff several times, not even several, many times. I've already written chapters 1 to 3, and I'm writing chapter 4 now. I've been through chapters 1 to 3 at least 12 times. I've been through from start to finish. Do expect you to do that for your essay, and you don't have the time either. So just to clear up what you're asking me. So I come back to the essay topic here now. Yes. Yes, I'm hearing you.
If I get an research to do, right, and the teacher asks you to write a background on a topic that you want to do, what the background should really contain? Because you're talking about abstract and those stuff.
Okay, so the background is how did you arrive at this topic that you are discussing? What is the information out there that is already on this particular topic? So, I'm thinking of a question that I could use as an example. So if you are doing a study, for instance, what is the information out there on this study that forms the background that you are going to base the study on? So you're going to look at, give me a topic, because I can't think of one.
All right, means the high resignation of teachers.
Okay, all right.
Job satisfaction influence it, and working conditions.
All right. So, background, the history of what has been happening over the years, where teachers are resigning or teachers are migrating. How do these teachers report? What kind of environment they work in that would affect their job satisfaction. So it means that you're going to have to do some research, see what is out there. It's similar to the literature review, but just that you wouldn't be going in so much depth. You're looking at some basics as to why this issue is happening. That makes sense?
Oh, me say it's basically like an overview. They would go in depth.
Right. It's an
Okay.
overview, and the same, some of those sources that you use, you're going to use them back in a literature review. And that is the thing, guys. If you use one source in paragraph 1, you can use it again in paragraph 2 if it is making another point that you want to make. But some of these journal articles examine different things, so there's no problem in using a source twice, 3 times. I wouldn't advise you to use it too much, maybe twice. So in the background of your study, you are going to realize that you have to use some of the literature that you used in your literature review, or you are going to use in your literature review. So basically, the background, you're setting the stage. Why this issue happening? What is the history of it? All right.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we did look at this sample example of an essay topic, and then I'm going to look now at how you would answer this question step by step. This is a question from general management, introduction to management. I just open the textbook and just look at a topic and write a question from it. So you notice I ask you to describe these organizational structures, and then I ask you to discuss. I could have left the discuss alone, but I wanted to also say advantages and disadvantages just to be a little more clear. Because sometimes if you don't specifically tell students things, they don't do it. It's like how I was asking what is the first thing you would do in your introduction, and somebody said define organizational structure. Some students don't do that, but you really should. So I didn't want to say discuss and just leave it there, so add the advantages and disadvantages of each. Okay, so look at this outline now. You want to define organizational structure, list out the 3 main structures, but do not define them. You want to make a statement about how that should be how they benefit the organization, but also have their disadvantages. It's just a statement. You're not listing the disadvantages or the benefits or that kind of thing. You're just making a statement. And just as I say in the thesis statement, quite simple. This essay will describe each type of structure and discuss the advantages and disadvantages of each for the organization. Thesis statement, it's not complex. I think sometimes students think that they have to have a thesis statement that is complex. No, it's just simple and straightforward. So main point A, you're discussing the functional organization. First thing you're going to do is describe it, how it works. Then you discuss advantages and disadvantages. Because you are not doing a compare and contrast, you can do this. You're describing it and stating the advantages and disadvantages under each, as opposed to if you were comparing and contrasting them, you would compare all of them first, then contrast all of them after. No, you're discussing it, so you're looking at each one. So first paragraph, you're doing that. Then it depends on if you are doing an assignment. At the end of each section or main point, you want to do a little summary. If it's exam type question, you don't need to do no summary. Main point B, we're looking at divisional structure. Again, you're describing, that's an error where I have functional. You're describing divisional structure, how it works, advantages, disadvantages. Then you're looking at matrix structure. Again, you describe it, talk about how it works, what are the characteristics of it, and then advantages and disadvantages. And that, you know, guys, it will take you a little time. It take you a good 40 minutes to do all of this, but it can be done. Conclusion, now you're summarizing the main points. Not going into detail again, because the detail is there already. You're just summarizing. So for example, you want to say, while the functional structure does this particular thing, the divisional structure does this, and the matrix structure does this. All of these approaches to organizational structure, etc., 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 you can draw back on the definition to organizational structure to say they all have their individual, operating or reporting structures and hierarchy, and some of those things you can discuss them and tie them up back in the conclusion. And then you can say the functional structure is the most common one, and it is more practical for most organizations, and even the other structures have some elements of the functional organization. And your essay done, you know, guys. I show you that the one with it 3 years ago, not true. Look here. That is why I say, you know, just from marking papers over and over, I say I have to do this because, and you know, I did something similar to this for a friend of mine that teaches at Maritime Institute, and he was having problems with his students, and he asked me to come do a essay writing workshop for him, and me left and go out of Maritime Institute for me big Saturday. It was a number of years ago. So I wish I'd think of it sooner and started doing it from last year for real. Yeah. Yes, man, simple. It's simple. Once you get it in your head, Kimberly, for every essay you write, you're going to use it. From you know it. Let me go to the money section now. Marking criteria and how I mark my essays. Because me always have rubric. Miss Angus is still here. She can tell you when I'm sending out my Stratman rubric, I have how much marks we assign to every single thing. Every single thing. I have me little 2 marks, me little 3 marks. Because that is how we're supposed to build up. We're not supposed to read the essay and then just give you a grade. It can't work like that. We're supposed to give you marks for the different things that you do. And that is why sometimes when students get a low marks, them shocked because them did write a whole heap of things. But lady, you write a whole heap of foolishness. No, I have a rubric where I work with. So even though this essay is worth 20 marks, I went through and see what is worth how much. And then I came up with 48. But I still work it back down to the 20 marks. That's how we do it. We prorate and that kind of thing. Your introduction of 5 marks. And because I know that students have so much difficulty with the thesis statement, I assign 2 marks to it. So this is my introduction of where 7 marks. It is the most, I don't want to say it is the most important part of the essay, but it is how you're introducing the essay. It is my gateway into what you're writing. And it's going to give me the vibes to read the rest of the essay. So I assign it some marks. So the overall part of 5 marks and then an additional 2 marks for your thesis statement. So if you never write a thesis statement, you don't get no 2 marks. Then overall, each point, main point A, main point B, main point C, each of them are 12 marks. And this is how I break it down. You want to describe the functional structure. That's a 2 marks, because that's simple. You don't need more than that for it. And then when you describe it now, that's how the 4 marks there. Advantages and disadvantages, 3 marks each. How many expect you to discuss more than 2 or 3 advantages or 2 or 3 disadvantages? We do the same thing. Then your conclusion, if you write a good conclusion, I give you 5 marks. So if when I add up how much marks you get 36 out of 48, that is 75%. I multiply 75% by 20, you end up get 15 out of 20 for your essay. That makes sense, guys? It's sensible? I tell you, I'm very methodological. Some of you might say me mark hard or whatever. But you know, say me chill. And some of you know have me in a class already know say me easy to deal with and all of that. But me just want to know if you do no work. Because that's what I'm there for. I'm there for teaching, I'm there for learn. So I want to know if you do, what I need to do. Not true. So this is the breakdown I use. And when I set my final exam and that kind of thing, even my in-course test, my rubric go down to the TTT. And sometimes, especially for those of you that have had courses with me and you have your assignments, your term assignments, you will see that I give you the rubric. I'll give you the rubric and tell you how much points for everything. Usually at the end of the assessment sheet, I'll give you the rubric so that you can be guided, so you know, say, I have 5 marks in it for grammar and mechanics. So if you write foolishness, you're not going to get that. If you're not punctuate and you're something not sound right and it not flow right, you're just not going to get that 5 marks there. So, who disagree with me? Who disagree? Nobody no disagree. See, I'm doing a free game, free game. Because obviously in my mind, um, right, right. Yes, thanks, Melody. But up in my mind, I think that I want you to succeed. I don't want you to fail. Just do your work. Just do what you have to do. So if I can help you in any way, I will always help you. See, I'm a good time. I could have gone about my business. I do whatever I want to do my day here. But me, I teach you how to write essay. And some of you are all final year student. Not true? Anyway, so after this now, I'm gonna tell everybody so that the next one that I having tomorrow, what time I having the one tomorrow? Today is Tuesday. Or tomorrow is the evening one, 6 to 8. The 6 to 8 one, and then Thursday I'm doing it again, 10 to 12. I whole heap of time that what I'm a week, All a 6 hour. Anyway, it's just a joke. I'm glad for doing it. I'm glad to help. So see we reach down to the nitty-gritty here now. Paragraph. You can't write one good paragraph to save a life, at least some of you. A paragraph is a group of sentences. We're talking about one idea in each paragraph. You can't talk about banana, apple, and yam, and cucumber, and dumpling in the same paragraph. That's a 5 different paragraphs. Paragraph out your ideas. You write your essay, you want 3 main paragraphs. In an exam section, you want 3 main paragraphs. Each of them supposed to deal with a different concept, a different theory, different idea. So you want to have your, in the paragraph itself though, you want to have your topic sentence, your supporting sentences, your concluding sentence, and a transitional sentence. I will not penalize you for not having a transitional sentence, to be honest. I won't penalize you for not having a transitional sentence. I've done writing where I don't use a transitional sentence. I don't feel like I need to tell you what I'm going to do in the next paragraph. So I won't penalize you for not doing that. But you must have a concluding sentence, and you must have the topic sentence and the supporting sentences. So that's all I want to know about fast food. See, the top one is the topic sentence. Then in the middle here, you have your tomato and your lettuce and the actual burger. These are your supporting details. Now, some of these things like the confectionery, as I call it, the mustard and the ketchup and the relish is how the vocabulary that you use, how you structure your sentences, that kind of thing. This make it nice and colorful and pretty. And then you have your concluding sentence, which is the bottom bun. When I left I go KFC, go buy a zinger all the time. I buy expensive zinger. Every time you buy a zinger, you remember say Miss did tell you say I saw you for write paragraph. Not true? I mean, I love KFC. So this is a example of a decent paragraph. Students require more recreational time in order to better focus on lessons in class. This topic sentence is telling you what the paragraph is going to be about. We're talking about recreational time, basically, and the ability for students to better focus. So you know so that is what your supporting sentence is going to build on. In fact, studies have shown that students who enjoy a recess of more than 45 minutes consistently score better in tests immediately following the recess period. See, we talk about the time, recreational time. The first sentence talk about the recreational time. Critical analysis further suggests that physical exercise greatly improves the ability to focus on academic materials. So the next one, it talk about focus. Of course, your paragraph is going to be a lot more involved. This is just a simple example. So the concluding sentence is that longer periods of recess are clearly required to allow students the best possible chances of success in their studies. I don't necessarily require to write a transitional sentence. Transitional sentence is saying clearly physical exercise is just one of the necessary ingredients for improving students' scores on standardized tests. So that transitional sentence is telling you what the next paragraph is going to be about. You can do it, but you don't have to. I personally feel like you don't have to. So if you were talking about functional organization, after you discuss your disadvantages, you make a statement after that, and you don't have to transition into divisional and say, there are additional structures that will be examined or whatever. I don't need you to do that. You could, but I won't penalize you for not doing it. So the transitional sentence can be used, yes, but you don't have to. So, I mean, it's not no in-depth anything I'm telling you about the paragraph. I'm just telling you that you need to have your topic sentence, then you support it with other sentences. You can't just jump in it. So have a topic sentence that tell me what you're going to discuss in the paragraph. Just like how you see the function of the whole introductory paragraph, that is what the topic sentence does. So what we're going to do now is a little activity, and you're going to tell me which paragraph, which sentences would come after each. So we have 4 supporting ideas and several minor details, and then we have a conclusion. So I'm going to leave you for 5 minutes or so. I'm not leaving, I'm here. About 5 minutes or so, and you read all of the questions, all of the sentences. I already have it there at H. H is the topic sentence. There are some reasons why a lot of students fail in college. That's a topic sentence. Then you're going to tell me the flow of ideas go down. So we're going to take 10 minutes and we're going to do this. In the document that I'm going to give you, I'm going to drop it in the chat. This and 2 others are in it. Thanks, Mrs. Angus. Bye. All right, guys, so go ahead and read the sentences. Oh, let me drop something in the chat. Coming along, guys. Guys, let me know if you're coming along, if you're getting along, you're figuring out things. Okay. You're not seeing the document. I don't know why, Rolana, because other persons are seeing it. All right. Tell me when you're ready, guys. Okay, I need other persons to tell me when they're ready. Okay. right, I'm guessing that other persons are ready as well. So let's go. So the topic sentence is H. What is the first supporting idea? What is supporting idea 1? Yes. Okay, C. Yes, the first supporting idea is C. What is the minor detail to support that first idea? Hmm? E? Who else say E? Who else say E? Nobody else not say E? Hmm? Princess is saying B. No, it's E. Right, it's E. Because, you know, that's the only question, that's the only sentence there that speaks to anything like academic background. All right, supporting idea 2. F. Minor detail 2. I. Right, I. Supporting idea 3. G. Who said G? No, it's A. It's A. And then what is the minor details? So supporting idea 3 of 2 minor details. What are they? B first and then G. Right. Right. B and then G. Correct. And then the final supporting idea is D, and the minor detail is K. See how no go on good? And of course, the concluding sentence having the word conclusion in it, which is fine. If you are concluding, you can say in conclusion. Don't be afraid to say in conclusion. That's fine. But this, guys, is one paragraph, you know? Is one paragraph, this. So you have your little ideas about things and whatever, you back them up with other statements and that kind of thing. This is one paragraph. And even when you're talking about the management stuff and the management theory and organizations and business level strategy and all of that stuff, is the same principle you're using, the very same principle. And see, this is a healthy paragraph because it have been a whole heap of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It have been 11 sentences. It's a nice healthy paragraph. Guys, sometimes it's something them not hard. I just feel like sometimes you don't know. And that's why I go out of my way to do things like this. You know, and even, like students that have courses with me, that I discuss these things. Sometimes if tutorial done and we have a 20 minutes leave, I just discuss some things with some students. Or even during the class. Sometimes during the class, maybe I'm going to talk about all kind of things. But yeah. So this is a full paragraph. It must make sense. It must show unity and coherence. You want to discuss one idea. This paragraph is just discussing some reasons why students fail in college and back it up with some little minor detail. Same thing you do when you're writing your paragraphs. Even for your long form essay, it's just that you're backing it up with research that you do. Okay, then let us touch a little bit. I'm wrapping up now. Let us touch a little bit on plagiarism. Guys, it's not necessary. Not necessary, you know. Last semester, second semester last year, I report people to plagiarize just because they think it was just too extreme. Or if you submit essay and it have 91% similarity index and you expect me to just look away. I'm not going to look away. It's too extreme. Plagiarism is when you use someone's words or ideas and presenting them as your own. It is also the inappropriate use of ideas from books, articles, the internet, and other students' work. You can reference other people's work. You can use it. That is all. But summarize and paraphrase and put in your citations, put it in your reference list. Don't write back the same thing what this person did say. You can write it in your own words. Don't be lazy. I think a lot of people end up plagiarizing just because they're lazy. So you want to credit sources of information and ideas. It is also so that as the reader, if I want to go and look at this reference, I can go and look at it. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Demonstrate the breadth of your reading and your knowledge. So if I look at your reference list and I see that you used some blog posts from the internet, but you also looked at journal articles, yeah, I will feel like, yes, you really did do some reading. And you don't, if you pull down a journal article, you don't have to read the whole lot, you know, guys. You read the abstract and you read the main areas. That is what I do, just to get some backup for what it is that you are writing in your essay, or give you ideas about what you want to write in your essay, your research paper and that kind of thing. So you can use direct quotes, but I would advise you to minimize the direct quotes. Paraphrase. You want to use some statistics wherever you can, this percentage of this, that percentage of that. And you know, you can explain a whole theory. You can have a whole paragraph explaining something about a theory that you took from another source, and don't repeat anything that the person said, because you're paraphrasing and summarizing. Or you can give your own interpretation. But if you're interpreting somebody else's work, you still have to cite the reference anyway. And you can just be stating facts. Just say who the author is, where you get it from, etc., etc. Don't be lazy and plagiarize. And that's pretty much it, you know, guys. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's not something that you learn overnight. Sometimes you have to read a few good essays to be able to write essays yourself. But if you follow these principles, you're far along. You're far along. Okay? Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want to say? Thank you. So what you're going to do now is to go tell your other friend them, say they must come to the next essay writing seminars and get some knowledge in them head. Oh, the document. I put something in the chat. I've done it before. I've put a document in the chat before. Let me see if I can do a drag and drop. Because essay writing handout. No, the drag and drop did not work, but I have put a document in the chat before, guys. So me know say it can work. Me don't know, me have to figure it out. But I'm sure I've done it before where I put a document in the chat. So I don't know make it now work now, me dear. But if anything, I'll send it by email. You know, so not know me do not boring, me dear. You know already said me always like in my teeth. So. You know already said me always like in my teeth. So. I don't see how to put, but I have maybe in a Zoom I put something in the chat and things say a blackboard. All right, guys. So that's it for me for today. Thank you for coming. Go and tell your other classmates and that kind of thing that they should come to the other sessions. And the other sessions on the thing, one is tomorrow 6 to 8, and one is on Thursday 10 to 12. All right, later, Melanie. All right, bye, guys. You're welcome, Mark. Bye, Princess. All right, I'm going to send out the handout via email. Let me stop the recording.